It was supposed to be just another quarterback meeting. Routine, quiet, strategic, the kind of behind-closed-doors conversation that sets the tone for week one without making a ripple in the outside world. Instead, it became a nuclear event, because when Browns owner Jimmy Haslam walked into that room, he didn't come to talk. He came to take over. And in a move that stunned players, silenced coaches, and torched the team's hierarchy in real time, Haslam publicly overruled head coach Kevin Stefanski and named rookie Shedeur Sanders the starting quarterback. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. No warning, no collaboration, no vote of confidence. Just one line. Shedeur is starting week one. This isn't up for debate. That's when the room shifted. That's when everything broke. Stefanski, blindsided and humiliated in front of his entire staff, reportedly tried to push back, only to be cut off by Haslam, who doubled down and stripped his coach of authority in front of players and personnel. It wasn't just bold. It was a direct shot at the structure holding the franchise together. And the fallout was immediate. The locker room? Fractured. The coaching staff? Paralyzed. The front office? Scrambling. And Shedeur Sanders? Thrust into a storm he didn't create. Because let's be clear, Shedeur didn't demand this. He didn't lobby for it. He came and prepared to earn the role, not be handed it in a boardroom coup. But now, he's the face of a power struggle that has nothing to do with football and everything to do with ego, impatience, and a billionaire owner drunk on control. And the result? Chaos. The Browns stumbled out of the gate. 2 ugly losses. A disoriented offense. A locker room walking on eggshells. All while the media torched the team's credibility and fans begged for leadership. This wasn't just a quarterback controversy. This was an institutional collapse, set off by one man's decision to undermine his coach in the most public, humiliating way possible. Now Stefanski is out. The coaching staff is in disarray. And Shedeur? He's trying to play a hero on a field still smoking from the fire his boss lit behind him. This isn't just dysfunction. This is franchise sabotage in real time. And as the rest of the league watches the Browns unravel, again, one question remains. Was Haslam's power play a visionary gamble or the final nail in Cleveland's already fragile foundation? Because after that QB1 meeting, there's no going back. Not for Stefanski, not for Shedeur, and not for the Browns. You know that moment in a movie when the music cuts, the room goes silent, and everyone suddenly realizes someone just crossed a line? Yeah, that just happened in Cleveland. And the Browns might never be the same again. Because what was supposed to be a routine quarterback meeting, a standard part of any NFL team's weekly rhythm, turned into a full-on boardroom coup, complete with public embarrassment, shouting behind closed doors, and the most chaotic power grab in recent franchise history. At the center, Jimmy Haslam. At the receiving end, Kevin Stefanski. And in the eye of the storm, Shedeur Sanders. Let's set the scene. It's week one prep. The Browns are finalizing their depth chart. Coaches are reviewing film. Players are locked in. Everyone's expecting a routine quarterback room session. A breakdown of the game plan. A vote of confidence for the veteran starter. Maybe a few notes on what the rookie can expect on the sidelines. But Jimmy Haslam, he has other plans. Because the owner, not the GM, not the coach, not the OC, but the owner walks into the meeting, sits down at the table, and blindsides everyone. No warning. No discussion. Just a bombshell. Shedeur is starting week one. I've made my decision. The room freezes. Stefanski blinks. You can hear the silence stretch. Because that's not how things are done. Not in the NFL. Not in any professional football organization with shred of hierarchy, structure, or respect for its staff. But here's Jimmy Haslam, throwing the entire system into chaos, live and unfiltered, in front of coordinators, assistants, and quarterbacks. And to make things worse, he doesn't just overrule Stefanski. He humiliates him. You've had 3 years to get this team moving. You're not going to bury this kid because you're scared to take a risk. That's what multiple sources say he said, right to Stefanski's face. And from that moment, the coaching staff was done. The hierarchy, dead. The trust? Eviscerated. The Browns weren't a football team anymore. They were a headline waiting to happen. And the media? Oh, they ate it up. Haslam oversteps again. Owner undermines coach in wild QB room standoff. Dysfunction in Cleveland? Say it ain't so. Within hours, every major outlet was running with it. Analysts were laughing on air. Former players were shaking their heads. The same old narrative returned. Cleveland, where talent goes to die and leadership goes to lunch. But the real damage? That was internal. Because after that meeting, the building changed. You could feel it in the halls, in the locker room, in the film rooms. Nobody knew who was actually in charge. Coaches were scrambling. Players were whispering. Veterans were texting their agents like, "What the hell is happening?" And in the middle of it all, Shedeur Sanders, a 21-year-old rookie, fresh off a historic college run, hyped like a Hollywood reboot, and now thrown into the fire, not because the staff believed in him, but because the owner forced it. Let's be clear, Shedeur didn't ask for this. He didn't campaign. He didn't stomp his feet. He showed up prepared, professional, focused, ready to earn his shot like anyone else. And suddenly, he's QB1 because Jimmy Haslam decided he knew better than the football people in the room. And the fallout? Predictable. The first 2 games? Disaster. Confused play calling. Sloppy execution. A team that looked like it had no idea who they were playing for. Shedeur struggled. How could he not? Thrown into a broken system mid-free fall. Coached by a staff that didn't pick him. Surrounded by teammates who didn't know which side of the conflict to stand on. The Week 2 loss to Pittsburgh? Embarrassing. Flat offense. Miscommunications. Sideline arguments. And Stefanski? Checked out. Quiet. Already packing his things. Even if the press didn't know it yet. By Week 3, it was official. Cleveland was in free fall. And Jimmy Haslam? Nowhere to be found. Media silent. Ownership dodging questions. The same man who hijacked the QB1 meeting had vanished into the background, leaving the wreckage behind him. But somehow, this team found a pulse. Week 3, back against the wall. Interim coaches trying to hold the ship together with duct tape and prayer. And Shedeur? He showed us something real. Calm in the pocket, sharp on his reads. A touchdown in the fourth quarter that looked like it was ripped from a Tom Brady highlight reel. It wasn't a blowout win, but it was a statement. I'm still here. I'm not the problem. I'm the future. And for a moment, it felt like Cleveland could breathe again. But the damage was done. This wasn't just a quarterback controversy. This was a franchise identity crisis. A team split between a coach who'd been neutered in front of the staff, a rookie trying to block out the noise, an owner whose ego had detonated the season before it even started. Let's talk about what this really means. When ownership steps into football operations, you better be right. You better have the results. You better win. Fast. Because if you don't just lose games. You lose everything. Credibility, culture, control. And the Browns? They lost all 3. Veterans started checking out. Some asked for trades. Younger players didn't know who to listen to. The coaching staff was splintered, half terrified of Haslam, half resentful of being overruled. And Shedeur, caught in the middle of a war he didn't start. This is what happens when ego becomes your playbook. This is what happens when owners forget they're not coaches. And now, the Browns are living in the aftermath of a decision that might haunt them for years. Sure, there's still a chance for redemption. Shedeur has shown flashes. The team could rally. A new head coach could restore order. But the stain of that QB1 meeting will never fully wash off. Because that was the moment Cleveland stopped being a football team and became a cautionary tale. A textbook example of what not to do. So now we watch. We wait. We see if Shedeur can rise above it all. Because this isn't just about talent anymore. It's about survival. So what do you think? Was Haslam right to override the coach? Or did he sabotage his own franchise? Is Shedeur a victim of dysfunction? Or the spark that will finally change the narrative? Sound off in the comments. Hit subscribe. Because this isn't just another Browns disaster. This is a ticking time bomb, and it's still counting down. What we're witnessing isn't just a football controversy. This is a full-blown power struggle where egos, money, and legacy are clashing louder than the fans in the dog pound. And right now, the scoreboard isn't tracking touchdowns. It's tracking collateral damage. Let's not sugarcoat this. Jimmy Haslam torched the room. That QB1 meeting? That was supposed to be a calm, internal, business-as-usual breakdown of preseason tape and depth chart planning. Instead, it became the moment everything snapped. One owner, one sentence, one public takedown. Kevin Stefanski, a man who had weathered quarterback rotations, roster injuries, media pressure, and years of trying to reshape the Browns into a serious franchise, was just dismantled in front of his peers and players like an intern being scolded in front of the board. And from there, the unraveling wasn't gradual. It was instantaneous. People always talk about respect in the NFL, that it's earned, that it's a glue between players and coaches, between coaches and execs, between execs and ownership. But in Cleveland, that glue melted on the floor during that meeting. Because when an owner kicks in the door and tells a head coach in front of his entire staff that he's done playing games, that he will be making the quarterback decisions now, you don't just lose respect. You lose authority. You lose structure. You lose the entire room. And that's exactly what happened. From that moment on, Stefanski's voice didn't matter. His playbook? Irrelevant. His leadership? Castrated. Players still showed up to meetings, sure. But the tone had shifted. Trust was gone. The chain of command was shattered. Let's talk about that chain of command for a second, because it matters. The NFL, for all its hype and theatrics, is built on hierarchy, roles, discipline. A head coach isn't just a guy calling plays. He's a cultural axis of the franchise. When you remove that, especially in a public, humiliating, undermining way, you don't just create tension. You create vacuum. A vacuum where chaos flows in. And it did. Players were divided. Veterans who'd been with Stefanski from rebuild days didn't know who to rally around. Coaches whispered in hallways. Assistants started subtly distancing themselves. And Shedeur Sanders? Trapped in a spotlight he didn't ask for, leading a locker room he wasn't fully empowered to lead, in an organization that didn't even seem to understand what it had just done. Let's be clear, this wasn't Shedeur's fault. This wasn't a rookie demanding attention. This wasn't a media stunt. This wasn't a diva moment. Shedeur didn't ask to be parachuted into the starter role mid-drama, backed by an impulsive owner's decree. He earned the right to be considered sure. His training camp performance was legit. His arm? Sharp. His reads? Fast. His preparation? Professional. But he expected to compete, not to be used as a power chip in an organizational meltdown. And yet, here he was, thrown into the fire without the full backing of the staff, forced to prove himself not just to fans and teammates, but to his own coaches, many of whom didn't even know if they'd be employed next week. You think that's a healthy development environment? You think that's how you bring up a franchise quarterback? No, that's how you burn one down before he ever gets a chance to rise. And the fans? Oh, they felt it. Browns fans aren't dumb. They've seen everything. They can smell fake from a mile away. And when that quarterback meeting drama hit the media, the crowd wasn't divided over Stefanski versus Sanders. They were united in disbelief over how badly the organization had botched this. Because it wasn't about who started. It was about how it happened. The Haslam intervention reeked of panic, of ego, of ownership making football decisions for headlines instead of results. It wasn't brave. It wasn't bold. It was reckless. And it dragged everyone down with it. The week one start? Disjointed. The play calling was cautious. The protection was inconsistent. The receivers looked confused. Shedeur was trying to lead a team that hadn't actually committed to being led. And it showed. The Browns lost. Badly. And by week 2, the wheels were fully off. A second straight loss. More sideline blow-ups. More anonymous quotes from within the building. Even the media stopped asking about X's and O's. They just wanted to know who was still in charge. Then came week 3. And finally, Shedeur got a clean pocket. Finally, the locker room circled the wagons. Finally, The interim staff let the kid play. And what happened? Shedeur shined. Not perfect, but poised. Crisp throws. Smart decisions. Real leadership. He pulled out a win the hard way. And for the first time in weeks, the city exhaled. But don't let the scoreboard fool you. That wasn't a win for the Browns. That was a win in spite of the Browns. Because until this organization figures out who it wants to be, franchise or circus, this chaos is going to hover like a storm cloud over every game, every snap, every locker room conversation. And guess who's carrying the weight? Shedeur Sanders. A 21-year-old rookie with the pressure of a fractured fan base, a power-hungry owner, and a coaching staff that just got steamrolled by the front office. Can he handle it? So far, yes. But should he have to? That's the real question. Because while Jimmy Haslam might be smiling now, basking the media buzz, maybe even telling himself he was right all along, the truth is clearer than ever. He didn't build this momentum. He stole it. He forced it. And the franchise will be paying the price for that. For a long time. So what now? Now comes a reckoning. Because the season isn't going to stop for the Browns to figure themselves out. The league is watching. The cameras are rolling. And the whispers inside that building, they're turning into open conversations. Who's really in charge? Who's next to go? And how long can Shedeur carry this broken machine before it breaks him? One thing's for sure. The Browns have a quarterback. What they don't have is a vision. And until they find one, this story isn't ending. It's just getting worse. Because if you think the Cleveland Browns' chaos peaked with Jimmy Haslam hijacking a quarterback meeting and humiliating his own head coach, think again. That wasn't the climax. That was the prelude. The Browns didn't just ignite a controversy. They cracked their foundation wide open, and now they're sprinting through the season on a house of cards with a flamethrower in hand. And the most chilling part? Everyone's pretending this is normal. You got press conferences happening like nothing exploded, players smiling through gritted teeth, and PR teams working overtime to spin this as strategic direction. Strategic? Please. This wasn't strategy. This was sabotage, executed with the elegance of a reality show food fight. Let's go back to that infamous QB1 meeting one more time, because it's not just about what happened. It's about what it revealed. Jimmy Haslam didn't just name a starter. He drew a line in the sand. And the moment those words left his mouth, Shedeur is starting week 1. He did something far more damaging than make a football decision. He split the building in two. On one side, the coaches who felt blindsided, insulted, and completely undermined. These are guys who spent years grinding through the system, following the hierarchy, respecting the chain of command, only have the top of that chain light the whole thing on fire in front of them. On the other side, the front office yes men, the marketing heads, the brand managers, the people who love the optics of Shedeur Sanders, the jersey sales, the youth engagement, the social media buzz, the future, and caught in the middle of all of it, a rookie quarterback with a Nike deal and a front row seat to chaos. Can we stop pretending Shedeur asked for this? Because he didn't. He didn't bang on doors demanding QB1. He didn't throw shade at the starter. He didn't go on Instagram Live talking about how his time was now. He did what every rookie should do. Kept his head down, showed up early, studied film, earned respect, and instead of getting the rollout he deserved, he got weaponized, turned into a symbol, a pawn in an ego battle, a shiny toy the owner could use to assert dominance and distract from years of organizational mediocrity. And let's be honest, Cleveland's not exactly new to dysfunction. This is a team that cycled through 12 head coaches in 20 years. The team that turned first-round picks into cautionary tales. The team where quarterbacks go to disappear and head coaches go to die. So when Haslam walked into that meeting and made that call, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a confirmation that Cleveland's deepest wound, their inability to stay out of their own damn way, was still festering under the surface. And then the spiral began. You saw it on the field. Miscommunications. Confused play calls. Players out of sync. Coaches visibly frustrated. Reporters asking players about leadership and getting no comment in response. You saw it in the building. Assistants polishing their resumes mid-season. Personnel guys tiptoeing around the owner. And Stefanski, walking around like a man counting his days. That Week 2 game in Pittsburgh was a kind of loss that reeks of dysfunction. They didn't just get outplayed. They looked disoriented, emotionally flat, like a team trying to pretend the roof wasn't caving in while standing in a pile of rubble. And somehow, despite all of it, Shedeur stayed composed. That's the part that's still jaw-dropping. He wasn't perfect, but he was present, calm in the pocket, not forcing things. Even as his coaches scrambled to regain control of the narrative, Shedeur acted like he was born in it. It was like watching a quarterback lead a team that wasn't built for him, but he still refused to let it fall apart. And then came Week 3, a moment of silence, a break in the storm, a glimmer of what could be. Shedeur played with poise. The offense clicked. The team looked together for the first time in weeks. It wasn't magic, but it was progress. It was a win built on trust between a quarterback and the guys willing to rally behind him, even if the system above them was still broken. But even in that victory, the scars showed. Post-game interviews were tight-lipped. Players talked more about fighting through adversity than strategy. The word resilience was thrown around like confetti, but no one dared mention the meeting that started it all, because everyone knew this wasn't over. The Browns still haven't named a permanent head coach. Stefanski is technically reassigned, but everyone knows he's gone. And Haslam? Nowhere to be seen. It's like he kicked off a palace coup and then ducked into a luxury box to watch the fallout from behind tinted glass. But let's zoom out, because this story has ripple effects far beyond Cleveland. Across the league, GMs and head coaches are watching with wide eyes. Because what happened in that meeting? An owner barging in, overruling staff, and installing a rookie starter in front of the entire quarterback room is everyone's nightmare scenario. That's not just interference. That's institutional betrayal. It tells every coach in the league, your authority is conditional. Your system only works until the owner wants a new toy. Your quarterback plan, your locker room balance, your staff alignment, meaningless if one guy gets restless. And that's the paradox of power in the NFL. Owners pay the bills. They can do whatever they want. But the great ones, they don't. Because they know that running a football team isn't about control. It's about alignment. It's about trusting the people you hired. It's about knowing when to let go and when to back off. Jimmy Haslam didn't back off. He blew through the door, humiliated his coach, used a rookie as a PR stunt, and turned his franchise into a case study in how to burn credibility faster than a busted coverage. And sure, Shedeur might still rise above it. He's got the tools. He's got the mind. He's got the it. But how long can you keep that composure when the building around you refuses to stabilize? We are putting up numbers while the owner keeps pushing buttons like he's playing Madden franchise mode. Because here's the real risk. Shedeur becomes collateral damage. They break him, not physically, mentally, organizationally, spiritually. They do what Cleveland has done to so many others. Put too much on his shoulders too fast, with no infrastructure to support the weight. And if that happens, it won't be on Shedeur. It'll be on the same man who walked into that QB1 meeting and made everything about himself. So we ask again, what now? Can this team rally around a young quarterback before the fractures become irreversible? Will Haslam back away before he does more damage? Will the Browns finally realize that success doesn't come from declarations? It comes from discipline? Or are we watching another tragedy unfold in slow motion? The sad part? No one knows yet. Because the dust hasn't settled, the chaos hasn't stopped. And Shedeur Sanders is still out there, trying to turn this franchise around one snap at a time while the front office plays tug-of-war behind him. So stay tuned, because the Browns aren't just playing football anymore. They're playing with fire. And eventually, someone's going to get burned.